Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Please let me know if there's any echo in this recording. I'm trying yet another new setup to try and get some more kinks out of this dual screen live setup that I've got going on for these courses. Anybody's watching, just let me know if you have an echo on your side. Testing, testing, testing. I'm just going to be sharing this with the WhatsApp. Right here. Let's go to this here. Testing, testing, testing. Hello, world. Testing, testing. I guess I could just go to my live and listen to it. Testing, testing, testing. Looks like there's no echo. Great. I'm going to just go ahead and share this a couple of times across social media, and we'll get started in a couple minutes. Hello, hello, hello. We are live. We are live. Is anybody here? I'll stick around for a second, just see if there's anybody watching. Hello, 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 hello. Testing, testing. If you hear an echo, let me know if you hear an echo, but I don't think there's an echo anymore. I think we fixed it finally. So, with that said, good afternoon, my Greeks and barbarians. Welcome back to AMP NOLA Western Music Zero, Unit 6. I would call it Week 6, but we've been pretty busy over here with services, so it's been kind of hard to get all this put together every week. So we're now at Unit 6. This is part reading 2. Everybody loves a sequel. So part reading 1, we went through a single piece of music that is homophonic, and now we're going to go through a piece of music that's polyphonic. So what does that mean? Well, let's go over to MuseScore, shall we? So last time we looked at this piece by Taikizes, arranged by Taikizes, of the classic Ευλογητός η Χριστός Θεός ημών, the hymn for Pentecost. As you can see here, we have basically every single one of these syllables lines up on all 4 voices. This is called a homophonic arrangement. It's I don't think there's anywhere in here, there might be, I can't remember. Let's see if there is somewhere over here. There might be a place where, nope, it's all homophonic. So what does homophonic mean? It means that everybody is singing the same syllable at the same time. This is the easiest way of reading in 4 parts, and it's one of the easiest types of 4-part to perform as a group. So we went through just one of the parts. I can't remember which part we went through. I think we went through the bass part. But basically, the principle that we went over is to look at your key signature here. And if you remember that our key signatures determine where our do is depending on a couple of factors. If it's a sharp key, then whatever note is one line or space higher than the sharp, the last sharp, that's your do. So in this case, this is an F sharp, right? So 1 above F is G. So we're in the key of G major, and G is our do. So this will go da 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 da. I'm not a bass. Da, 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 da. So do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Right? And this would be mi, re, mi, fa, mi. I like to teach reading this way just because it gets you in the mode of basically just reading things by interval and thinking everything in terms of where it is in relation to do. And you can very clearly see how many notes up or down you're going each time. Like, for example, from here, in the tenor and the bass part, the tenor part goes up 1, 2, do, re, mi. It also goes down 2 if you're the bass, do, di, la, da, 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 da. And then from here, da, 1 up. And then from here, this is up 1, line, space, line. Line, space, line makes 1, 2, 3. Da, 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 da. See that? And then it just goes down in steps again. Diatonic steps. Da, 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 da. I don't have a low G. Anyway, so, and the same thing goes for every voice. You just have to find where your tonic is, your home note. And in this case, if you listen to the organ play the what you would call an apíhima, I guess, like kind of an intonation to let you know what key you're in, that ends on the tonic chord. Da. See that? So the way you find your do is you basically look for whatever's going to be the most consonant with the tonic chord. Da. Luckily, both of these start on the tonic. Usually you have an organist playing this with you, so it's pretty easy to find your part if you can't hear it on your own. Just listen to the organ. And luckily this one starts in octaves, unisons. And then it spreads apart. This is all on the Amp Nola website. You can take a look at this in each individual part and learn on your own if you want. This is a really nice arrangement of the Hymn of Pentecost. A lot of, I think it's kind of relatively unknown. I've only heard it done in my home parish in Portland, Oregon, my hometown parish. Never heard it done in another parish on the West Coast. So it's a pretty nice one. It's significantly more elegant than a lot of the other things that people do in churches around the U.S., like the Anastasio and a couple others. Anyway, so we're not going to look at that today. We're going to look at something that's polyphonic. And what's more polyphonic than Taikizes Soma Christou? So, in this case, I actually haven't written it even in Greek letters. I just wrote it transliterated. For whatever reason. I think I was basically doing this for a choir that probably didn't have all proficient Greek readers. So we just kind of transliterated it into kind of Latin phonetics, sort of. Anyway, take a look here. So right here we have Sol, Ma, Christou. Everything is all sung at the same time by all four voices, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, right? But then we start to diverge. Metala, we're fine. And then we have vete. So vete on soprano, alto, and the bass are sung at the same time. But this line here, being above the bottom staff, is for the tenor. And as you can see, the tenor doesn't say te until the very next bar. And then as you see here, only the sopranos say B. Nobody else says anything. So this is what's called polyphonic. As you can see, every voice, when you get here, you have na, tha, a, yis. Right here. So right here, not a single one of the voices is singing the same syllable as the rest of them. And so that's what kind of makes these particularly difficult for beginner choirs. But I'm going to try to show you that it's not as scary as you think. But what it does mean is you do kind of need to learn these types of pieces almost like it's been squished down into a single part. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's just go through the whole piece. Right now I've got this set to Oz, choir Oz. I don't know if I'm going to like that, but here, have a listen. Almost everybody has heard this in the GOA, so... So we're just going to go through that first half of this setting by Tyche's S again, by the way. So first things first, we're going to take a look at the key signature here. Probably your organist will give you this first chord. Now this is a little bit of a peculiar arrangement because it actually doesn't start on the tonic chord. It starts on the 5 chord. This is 1 sharp, so again it's G major, but this is a D chord. So the good thing to do is listen to the lowest note, or listen to the do of the first note that everybody sings, and then find yours from there. So the organist will play that, right? Just a D major chord. So you'll hear this. Do. Now obviously if you're a bass, you know that that's your note in the first place. This is up how many lines and spaces? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's up 4 from there, also known as up a perfect fifth in Western music. So you go like this. 1, do, re, mi, fa, sol. See that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Line, space, line, space, line. Now, you have to pay attention. This is a D. This is also a D. So the altos have the octave up. Do. Now, how do they know that it's a D? Well, if you go back to our previous lessons, this clef is a treble clef, and this little circle around here puts a target on this 4th line and says that that line is a G. That's what clefs do, is they tell you what these lines actually mean. And then the bass clef tells what these lines mean. And it says that this line in between these 2 dots, the second line, is an F. So F, down, space, down, line, that's D. G, this line, down a space, so G, F, E, D, down 3 from this line. It's down 3 spaces and lines. Space, line, space, right? So those are both Ds. So when the organist plays a D, then you know that that's also a D up here, but it's up an octave. Do. And then this note for the sopranos is up 1 line and 1 space. So 1, 2, 3. See that? So now you know that you're do, sol, do, mi. Like that. And then from there, you just read it along. So let's say we're the soprano line. Up 1, bump, down 1, down 1, up 1, up 1. See, it went down 2 here, and went down here 2 as well. And then from here, up to this one, is 1 line, or 1 space and 1 line. So it's up again 2. Da, da, da. See that? Da, 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 Hopefully that makes sense. And the same thing here for the alto. So, and then we have 1 down, but it has a sharp on it, so it's da, da, da. And then here we have same, but we go up 1, but it's not da, it's a natural, so it's flat. Da, B, C, B, A, B. And then up 1 line, 1 space, 1 line, up 3. Da, 1, 2, 3. See that? And then down 1, and then stay the same. And all of these parts you can read that way. So now that we've kind of rehashed how to do basic reading, now what do we do about this polyphonic thing? When you read polyphonically, you really kind of have to also know everybody else's part, sort of. So in this case, the only person that has to think more here is the tenor, because the tenor is the only person who's doing something different than everybody else. Everybody else is going me ta la ve te, but the tenor's going me ta la ve te. Make sense? So they actually have an extension on the syllable ve, while the rest of the choir sings te. So what you have to be aware of is that you are not going to be singing the same thing as everybody else. So while everybody's singing something else, let's say I'm going to do the alto. Right? So same thing if you're soprano. Right? If you're bass, but the tenor has a different part. So the tenor has to be aware that their part is different. And this, by the way, for anybody who's interested in knowing what that's called, it's called a suspension. Instead of hitting this resolution on a B natural, da 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 da, we go da da. It's called a suspension. Anyway, but this is where it gets really interesting, because we have this bihis thing, bihis, 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 right? See how it's kind of cascading down across all the voices. So what you really do want to do is be aware of how this sounds as a piece is in and of itself. Kind of learn each part. Bihis, 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 and kind of just be aware of each one of those rhythms, and you'll find your entrance every time. So if you're the soprano, obviously you just hold this, right? I probably maxed out my mic there. And you just hold it until the tenor goes, bihis, until you hear the tenor go, bee, and then you move on. So I'm going to sing it down an octave here. Bihis, tenor, so when you hear this tenor, that's your cue to move on. So you kind of have to be aware of what everybody else is doing to know where you are in the music. Or you just count. You just know that this is yis, 2, 3, 4, tha, na. That's another way that you can do it as well. But a lot of people don't really have an intuitive skill for counting right as they're beginning. So I like to prefer to encourage people to learn the whole piece of music as it sounds across every voice, and it helps them find their place instead of jumping their entrance. In a thing like this, where basically it goes soprano goes bihis for 2 beats, and then alto goes bihis, tenor goes bihis, and then bass goes bihis. So if you follow along, and we don't even use the notes, we go P, yes, B, yes, B, yes, B, yes. Let me do that again, and I'll just kind of like use the mouse to kind of make it clear. B, yes, B, yes, B, yes, B, yes. So does that make sense? So when you're doing something like this, you have to really kind of pay attention to where your part falls with relation to everybody else. And then that's what's going to make this sound really like a cascade of different parts coming in. And as you can see here, from here, you just have to know your part. And so, like, for example, the bass part goes B, sa, tha, na, tu. Every beat, they change syllables. Tenor goes B, sa, tha, na, tu, right? So you just have to kind of learn it as it is. D up one, da, 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 na, tu. Gis for 2 beats, tha for 1 beat, na for 2 beats, and tu for 2 beats because it's a half note. And they all 4 parts kind of converge right here at the end. So same thing here. We have yevsaste. It's written in the center of both staffs. So it's kind of implied that the soprano, alto, and tenor all have yevsaste together. But then the bass has just a delayed entrance on the yev. So it goes yev to yev. So go like this. Yes, like that. So that's how you kind of keep your bearings. You pay attention to, like, this is a half note rest, which is you wait for 2 beats. And let's do the second half now. So the second half is basically the same sort of thing, except it's the Soma Christou for the first part. It's almost the same exact material, just kind of juggled around a couple places. And you can see here, you have alto starting with sol for 4 eighth notes, and then you have sol and sol for the soprano and the tenor. They're all together on ma. Alto and tenor have khri. And then the bass comes in and kind of catches up. So ma Christu. See that? So the same thing, like we just did with the b'yis. Remember how we did b'yis, b'yis, b'yis? That's how you're going to remember where you come in. So in this case, what's going on here? It's so ma so ma Christu. If you think of it like that, that'll give you an idea of what every voice is doing. So ma so ma Christu. So what's happening here, really? Just like before, it was b'his, 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 but it's so ma for 2 beats in every voice. So ma Christu. And if you pay attention to it that way, then you can go back to your part and figure out when you come in. So let's say you're the soprano. Soprano has to wait 2 beats because of this half rest here. So what happens? Alto sings so, and then soprano comes in. So, ma Christu. Dotted quarter. Do we remember what this is? It's the same length as 1.5 quarter notes. So, ma Christu. So going from the beginning, it's 1, 2, so ma Christu. Right? Now, if you're afraid of reading these accidentals, don't worry. We're going to get into that in the next lesson. Because accidentals do something where they basically kind of temporarily change the tonality of what you're singing. They change your scale, just temporarily. And you will have to kind of reverse engineer it yourself to figure out how to nail those every time. Otherwise, you just listen to the organ, you can figure it out. Anyway, if you are the alto, you actually have the same part as what the soprano had in the first part. Soma Christo. So if I was learning this, or if I was teaching this to a choir, this second part I would actually teach the alto part first, because that is the glue. That's the actual melody. And then all of this is kind of just echoing it in different keys. So you see how this is going so, and then the soprano goes so, and then down here the tenor goes so, right? So all right, sorry. So So if we're the tenor, we have to hear, and then we go so and we're gonna be back with the alto there. So don't listen to the soprano for your chri, listen to your alto. So that's a good rule of thumb, is just be kind of aware of who you are with and who you're not with. And that kind of helps you solidify where you are in the piece. So in the same case here, the second half is considerably more difficult than the first half. So me, da, la. So alto and tenor are homophonic, me, da, la, and then we have polyphony. So it goes me, da, soprano, me, da, la, a, ve, e, de. So me, da, la, 2 beats, ve, 2 beats, de. And then bass, me, da, la, ve, de, because that's a dotted quarter. Me, da, la, ve, de. Dotted quarter is quarter, dot, and, right? It's the equivalent of 1.5 beat. 1. So it's full. So in the same way, you would just you would listen to this and go, okay, well, what's happening kind of in the big picture? It's me, da, me, da, me, da, la, ve, de. You just kind of think of each entrance of each voice, and you get an idea of what's going on, and then you go back and look at your part. Now look at this, the same thing. Be, yes, be, yes, be, yes, be, yes. Except instead of starting with the soprano and then the alto and then tenor bass, it's tenor, alto, soprano, bass. And this is very similar to the other B keys. And then this, look at this. This is yev, yev, yev. So sopranos and altos both have yev all together. And then tenor comes in the second beat, and bass comes in the third beat. So it goes yev, yev, yev. And then we're back homophonic sa, ste. And then we have Alleluia. As you can see, it's homophonic. There's just one syllable for all 4 voices. So that's how you read a polyphonic piece. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll get to them in the next week, because next week we're going to be looking at recognizing accidentals, which is not really that long of a lesson. It's just more of like, we're going to be looking at basically, okay, well, this is what the scale is supposed to sound like. What happens when we put a sharp or a flat here or there in the piece of music? What happens to the melody? What does that sound like? And we're just going to kind of go through a simple scale, probably C major to begin with, and then we'll show you what it looks like when you put sharps or flats into it. And then if we put naturals in a sharp key, what happens to those? If we put flats or naturals in a flat key, what happens to those? None of that's probably making any sense right now, but you'll figure it out when we get there. So we're spending a little bit of time on it. So anyway, hopefully you learned something today about how to find your way through a polyphonic piece of music. They're not as hard as they sound. You just have to kind of think about it as big picture, listen to each part, and really know who comes in right before you. And if everybody knows who comes right before them, then it all kind of cascades properly. So stay tuned for the Biz Music Unit 6, which I think is going into soft diatonic and soft chromatic. Cheers.